How's it going, everyone? I am back with another video. This is going to be my Week 18 score predictions video. Last week of the regular season, going to go through all the games taking place, give my score predictions, talk about how I think the games are going to go, all that good stuff. So, diving straight in here. So, the first game is on Saturday, which is tomorrow as I'm recording this. I believe it's either 4:05 or 4:25. I want to say 4:25. I'm not 100% sure on that. Maybe it's 4:30, something like that. But anyway, it's the Panthers at the Bucks. Yeah, this is a big game. It looked like it was going to be for the NFC South, but the Falcons ruined that. Well, sort of ruined that plan potentially by beating the Rams this past Monday night. Had Atlanta lost that game, this game would be for the division. Whoever wins this game straight up would be the NFC South champion. The loser is eliminated. So that's probably what the NFL was planning on. However, they put a bit of a contingency in because with the Falcons winning against the Rams Monday night, they play the Saints. If Atlanta wins that game, even if the Panthers lose this game, they still would win the division on the third tiebreaker, I believe, because they swept the Falcons and the Bucks split with them. And the Bucks probably should have swept the Falcons, but they choked that Thursday game a couple weeks ago. So that's an absolute killer game for Tampa now. That's the reason they don't make the playoffs. I think Falcons gonna I guess I'll talk about that game in a bit. But anyway, this game, as I mentioned, takes place Saturday, so that's kind of the contingency clause the NFL put in place. They figured, well, obviously, we know that. So okay, how do I phrase it? We know if they were to schedule this game Sunday, they would know during the course of the game or depending on if they scheduled it at 4 Sundays, the Falcons Saints games at 1. It's Saints at Falcons, so Saints Falcons game. So if they schedule this game at 4, they would know going into this game if Tampa had a shot or the division would be clinched. So obviously they want this game to mean more, so that's why they scheduled it on Saturday. So it makes sense from the NFL's perspective. But I'm going to go with the Bucks here in a squeaker. I am back and forth because the Bucks have been so bad lately. The Panthers honestly deserve to win the division more than Tampa because Tampa's been so bad lately. The Panthers been a better team than Tampa. Now, not much better because they're also weird. They look great one week, then awful the next week. They're a hard team to read. I would not at all be surprised they win this game, but I picked the Bucks 2 weeks ago when they matched up because was talking about how it was big games, and under those circumstances, I trust the Bucks a bit more. That obviously wasn't the case. Well, this is with all the chips in the table, so I'm gonna, even though they've been playing so bad at home, I'm gonna trust Tampa a bit more. I think they'll squeak it out. I think this is a close game either way. I don't know. I just trust the Bucks a bit more. Now, again, even if they win this game, they still might not even win the division due to the Falcons. So that's going to be interesting there. But again, as I mentioned, we won't know the result of Saints Falcons until after this game. So both teams should be all in this game. Yeah, I'm very tempted to pick Carolina. Again, twice in 2 weeks, these teams will be playing. The Panthers won the first one, so usually if the teams are evenly matched, the other team tends to win the next one. I don't know. I'm gonna trust the Bucks a bit more, even though they have been playing bad. At least the games have been close. They were getting the offense going a bit in that game. They were running it way too much. I think they're gonna pass it more here. Let Baker decide the fate of their season offensively. I think defensively they'll do just enough. I think they'll be solid most of the game. It'd have some bad moments where, big explosive plays, typical Todd Bowles defense. I'm going to trust them a bit more. Carolina, their keys to winning. Again, Baker and the offense been bad. Panthers defense been really solid for at least parts of the season. I think the Panthers defense can really limit Tampa here. The offense and Bryce Young, they're just going to have a good game. Simple as that. They either play great or they play bad. They played bad last week. They looked good against the Bucks the prior week. It's just vice versa. So with that logic, playing bad last week, they should play well this week. Could see it. The Bucks defense has been awful lately, so I could see Carolina taking advantage. Again, coin flip game. I would not bet on it either way. I would actually Carolina +3 wouldn't be a bad bet, but very well could lose by more than that, like 4+. So tough bet there with the line. I'll go Tampa and a squeaker 23-20. Should be a good game. Oh, this should also be a good game. This game doesn't really have any contingencies on it. It's as simple as whoever wins is the 1 seed, and the loser is either going to be the 5 or the 6 seed. So, depending on if the Rams can beat the Cardinals, which you would probably think they would, especially McVay said they're going to be rolling with the starters. Seattle's favored by 1.5. I'm going to go with the underdog here. I'm going to go with the 49ers to get the win here, get the 1 seed. And it is a bit concerning how bad their defense has been playing lately. And yes, they have a million injuries, especially defensively. That's been the case all year. The defense has still been solid. Despite that, the past couple weeks, the injuries have been starting to show a little bit. Well, more than a little bit. The Bears' offense has been really good this season. The Bears were just rolling up and down the field at will. So were the 49ers. And obviously, the 49ers held on in the last play of the game, but Chicago very easily could have won that game. And they would be in contention for the 1 seed. However, the Seahawks offense has really kind of been lackluster. It's been very streaky lately. When they do put up a decent amount of points past couple weeks, it feels like they just find a momentum wave and ride it rather than consistently being able to string together 4 quarters of games. We saw that they went off in the fourth quarter against Carolina last week. They went off in the fourth quarter and overtime against the Rams 2 weeks ago. So I don't know. With the 49ers defense playing as bad as it has been, I think it's going to play better in this big game situation here at home, primetime Saturday night, against, again, an inconsistent Seattle offense. So I think the 49ers defense bouncing back is going to be what gives them the win here. Seattle's defense, I think, is going to keep it close. I think regardless of who wins, this is a close game. Seattle's defense has been fantastic all year, elite all year. It's honestly, the team has been better on the road, you can say, than at home. And the 49ers offense has been on fire, though, so I think Seattle's defense will slow them down. I don't think they'll be able to stop them enough to win the game, though. I trust in primetime, big game situation, the 49ers more than the Seattle offense. I trust Purdy in the offense more, else, of course, Sam Darnold and company. I, again, think the 49ers defense will play good. I think it'll be a type of game where the 49ers are controlling the game. It's like they should win, but Seattle's kind of hanging around, and it's like, oh, God, Seattle's going to win the game here. And then San Francisco ends up holding on in a tight one here. Seattle, they could win the game from defense alone. I could see them holding the 49ers to under the 24 like I'm predicting here. The offense, again, I could see the offense playing a lot better with how bad the 49ers defense has been lately. So there is a bunch of logic that suggests Seattle could win the game. The first game was very low scoring, went down to the wire. In week 1, the 49ers won it. Seattle was at the end zone for a chance to take the lead with like a minute left, and they ended up getting the ball stripped from Nick Bosa. He strip sacked Sam Darnold, and the 49ers won the game. I think it'll be close again. Second year in a row, Sam Darnold's had a win and you're the 1 seed, lose and you're going in the wild card type of scenario. Obviously, last year it was a disaster against the against the Lions in that situation. We'll see how he does this year. Tight game here. I'm honestly a bit surprised Seattle's favored, but I'm sure that line is going to sway between a point, point and a half. Maybe even half a point. It wouldn't even surprise me if it goes all the way in the favor of the Niners by, half a point or a point. I'm sure that spread will change, but I'm going to go with the 49ers here. Monumental game. Should be a really good Saturday night game. Colts Texans. Going to go with the Texans here. The Colts are playing Riley Leonard. No offense to him, but against this Houston defense, in Houston, I think that could be a disaster. The Texans are still playing for the division. Now, it's kind of a long shot because they're going to need to win, which obviously I think is going to happen here with my score prediction. However, they need the Titans to upset the Jaguars. But Houston, I made a playoff a playoff scenario video. I believe I went through all the possible scenarios seeding wise. So check that out if you're interested. Depending on Week 18's results, I'm trying to remember. I believe Houston, if they lose, they can actually get the 6th seed, I believe, instead of the 5. So the 5 seed is obviously going to play the AFC North winner. So that's going to be an ideal matchup compared to if you're the 6th seed, you're going to play the 3 seed, which is either going to be Denver, the Patriots, or the Jaguars. And again, Houston can actually get the 3 seed technically. If they win the division, they're going to get the 3 seed. But I don't think it's going to happen. Spoiler alert for my Titans Jaguars score prediction. But my point is, Houston's still playing for a lot here. The Colts are starting Riley Leonard. The defense hasn't been too great for Indy lately. The Texans' offense hasn't really been great all year, but they've kind of picked it up in parts of the season. I think they'll do enough here. Colts have a bend but don't break defense. Even just a bunch of field goals is going to help Houston win the games. I think their defense is really going to limit Indy here. So I'm going to go with Houston 26-13. Indy, their offense just going to have to overperform. I don't think they're going to win the game with only 13 points. They're going to want to play spoiler. Maybe, again, they're eliminated. They're just playing for pride, trying to play spoiler. If they get nothing to lose at this point, maybe, some trick plays. They give Houston some looks that they're not prepared for. They haven't run all year. Their offense just going to have to do a bit more. Defense, I could see playing a bit better, holding Houston to a bit under 26. But I'm going to go with Houston here. I feel pretty comfortable. They're favored by 10. I think they'll cover that. So I'll go with Houston 26-13. Should be a pretty comfortable Houston win, I feel. Speaking of spreads, I also probably would not touch the Seattle 49ers spread. I think that game could go either way. So, obviously, I was just talking about this game a bit. Tennessee, Jacksonville. So, as I mentioned, if the Jaguars lose and Houston wins the division. They're the 3 seed. The Jaguars drop to a wild card position. However, I don't think they're going to have to worry about that. They just have a simple win, and at worst, you're the 3 seed. They can technically get as high as the 1 seed, too. But I think the Jaguars are just going to take care of business here. I could see them just blowing the Titans out, just winning in complete dominant fashion. However, I actually think this might be a bit closer than people think. That's why I would not bet Jacksonville plus 13.5. I actually think Tennessee plus 13.5 is a decent bet. The Titans have been playing some decent football lately. The offense has been getting it going. The Jaguars' defense is good, but you can move the ball on it. Just similar to the Bears, they just force a bunch of turnovers. So Tennessee, I think, may get a bit more offense than people were expecting. I think their defense, I don't think their defense is going to play that well, but I don't think they're going to let the Jags score 40 or anything like that. I don't think the Titans by any means, if it's a complete shootout, or stand much of a chance in this game, although who knows. But the Titans defense, I don't think they're going to allow the Jaguars, just go up and down the field and score a million points. I think they'll get a couple stops. I just don't think the Titans are going to have enough firepower. I think the Jags offense is just simply going to outscore them. But I do think Tennessee's going to put up a bit more than people are expecting. They've been eliminated for a while. They're going to want to play spoiler for a division rival. So maybe similar to the Colts, they can throw some things at the Jaguars. The first game, the Jaguars just absolutely dominated. They blew the doors off them. I could see a scenario where the Jags just win by a million, but I think maybe the Jags have some sloppy plays. Tennessee gets a bit more offense. People are starting to say, the Titans going to somehow pull it off, and the Jags end up winning in the end. I think it's going to be how the game goes. But Tennessee, again, defense, they play a bit better than I'm expecting. I think the offense is going to play a bit better than most people are expecting. So certainly a bit of logic to suggest the Titans stand a chance, maybe could pull it off. But I'll go with Jacksonville 27-20, and they win the division, and they're at worst the 3 seed. Browns, Bengals. Yeah, Bengals are favored by 7.5. I actually like Cleveland plus 7.5 in this game. I could see a scenario where the Bengals just blow the doors off the Browns. The first matchup in week 1, the Browns defense dominated. The Bengals really struggled offensively. I think they only had 1 touchdown in the game, bunch of field goals. They got a bit lucky because Cleveland, they missed, I believe, a field goal and a PAT. One of the field goals was a chip shot, I think. The Browns should have won that game, honestly. I think the Bengals had negative yardage in the second half, or like 3 yards of offense, or something extremely low like that. Um, both these teams are out, nothing to play for. I kind of just feel like the Browns got their last hoorah of the season, eliminating the Steelers last week. I don't know. I don't think that was like, I don't know. It was like, yeah, just their last hoorah. The Bengals they found something offensively the past couple weeks. They've been popping off. Joe Burrow's been looking really good. The offense has been looking. The defense been playing a bit better. They're at home. I just don't see how the Browns are going to have enough firepower to keep up with the Bengals offense. I think Cleveland's defense will keep it close. I think they play well. I do think Garrett's going to get the sack record. I think he actually sacked Burrow. I want to say on 3 straight plays back in the week 1 match. It was 2 or 3 straight plays, I think. Um, so yeah, that's something. And obviously, I'm sure it made the Browns going to be a bit more aggressive. Their play calling, trying to get Garrett. Uh, the sack record, the Bengals' offensive line, we obviously know is not one of the better ones in the league. So I do think Garrett's going to get the sack record, but I just again don't see how the Browns' offense can keep up. The Browns, I think the Browns defense is going to play decent in this game, not nearly as well as it did week 1. The offense for Cleveland, I think, is going to have to do a lot more than score 17. I think at minimum it's going to need to score like 21 to 23-ish points, probably 24 plus. I don't see how that's going to happen, though. The Bengals defense is awful, so I don't know. Browns offense, they do a bit more. Defense, I could see playing a bit better. Definitely some logic suggesting Cleveland could pull it off here. I do think they'll lose within that spread, so that's why I say bet plus 7.5 for Cleveland here. But Cincy, I just think they get too much firepower in this game. I'm going to go with them 24-17. Hopefully Garrett can get the sack record, though. No offense to my guy Joe Burrow. Cowboys-Giants. This should be actually a pretty entertaining game. I think this is going to be a complete shootout, and with that in mind, I just trust the Dallas offense more than the Giants offense. You get 2 bad defenses. The Cowboys defense is a disaster. The Giants defense, they played well last week. It was against the Raiders. The Giants, just coaching wise, are kind of a disaster. Cowboys, meaningless game for them even last week, and the offense went off. Giants been in meaningless games for a bit as far as, being waiting for playoff contention. They looked really good last week. They blew the first overall pick. Technically, I think they can still get it, I believe, but it's like a very slim chance. But I guess I have them losing, so that'll help if the Raiders can somehow lose. But yeah, Dallas, I just trust their offense more. I think it's going to be a shootout here. Just trust Dak and company to make a couple more plays, maybe one more drive than the Giants here. I'll go Dallas 30-26. I also could see, the Giants maybe having a chance to win the game. The Dallas defense makes one stand or something like that. The Giants, they actually have the talent on defense to hold Dallas to a bit under 30. So if it is a shootout, I could see their defense getting more stops than the Dallas defense. But I'm going to go with Dallas here. I could see a scenario where the Dallas defense plays well. The Cowboys kind of win comfortably. With the Giants win, I think it'll be close down to the wire, the last play of the game. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Cowboys here, 30-26. Obviously, again, meaningless in terms of playoffs, but I think this actually could be a sneaky good game. Saints Falcons. So as I mentioned, talking about Panthers Bucks, this game is very meaningful depending on who wins that game. If the Panthers win, this game's meaningless as far as playoffs. If the Bucks win, like I'm predicting them to, the Bucks are going to be pulling for the Saints here, and the Panthers are going to be pulling for the Falcons. Because again, if Tampa wins, if the Falcons win, that means the Panthers win the division. But if the Saints win, that means Tampa wins the division. So I am with my score prediction for Saints Bucks, and that would obviously be the best case scenario for the NFL. They probably want the Bucks to win, so this game means more. So yeah, this can go either way. I'm gonna go with the Falcons. They're favored by 3.5. By the way, I think that was I would bet Dallas plus 3.5. I think they'll just cover that, but I could see them only winning by a field goal. So that's a tough bet there. That could go either way. But I always like talk about if I bet the spreads or not. But yeah, this game could go either way. I'm going to go with Atlanta. I would not bet that spread at all, simply because I think this is a coin flip game and it's the Falcons. I have a rule this season that I'm done betting on Falcons games, regardless if I'm betting for or against them. They have screwed me numerous times, so I'm done with them. I'm absolutely done betting on them this season. Obviously, this is the last game they're going to play. But the Saints have been hot lately. Tyler Shuck has looked really good. He's the favorite for Rookie of the Year. They're on a win streak. The defense has been playing solid. The offense has looked good. The same thing with the Falcons. So the Falcons are on a win streak. They tried to choke the game against the Rams last week. They had no business narrowly escaping with a win. They really should have won, comfortably in that game. So on paper, also no Chris Olave. I would have picked Lane either way, but no Chris Olave I think is really big in this game. But the Falcons at home, they're on a bit of a win streak. Again, so are the Saints, but I think the Falcons the better team. They're just going to gut it out here. I think Atlanta's defense, Tyler Shuck and company have been on fire. I think Atlanta's defense kind of makes it look like, hey, this is still a rookie quarterback. The Saints, even though they've been hot, they're still not the greatest team. In other words, I think the Falcons defense plays solid. I think the Saints defense also plays solid, but I know Bijan, I think he may have a big game. I just trust Atlanta a bit more at home in this scenario. So I'm going to go with them. But again, trust with the word Falcons should be non-existent, at least for me. The Falcons are definitely a better, more talented team than the Saints. I could see a scenario where the Falcons are in control of the game and they blow it and the Saints win. Could see that. That would be typical Falcons way to especially end their season and lose this game. Yeah, this is a really tricky one. I would not bet the spread at all, but Saints, as I mentioned, their defense, I think will play well enough to win the game. I think their offense is going to be, a tad behind the Atlanta offense, but I very well could see it going either way. Could see the Falcons up big, and then the offense just pops off for the Saints in crunch time. That could be a key to them winning this game. Not betting on this game at all. Should be kind of an entertaining game. The first matchup, the Saints, it was borderline a disaster with how sloppy they were. They're turning it over. There's a bobbled snap in the end zone. A mess of a game, and they were in it till late. So that's not great for the Falcons, but I don't know. Falcons, if they win this game, I honestly think they may bring the coaching staff back. But if they lose, I think they're gone. They should be gone either way, I think. It's just it's like the Falcons just pick and choose weeks where it's like, well, we have this great talent, let's utilize it, and they look great, and then they pick games where they just shit the bed. So they're a hard team to read. I don't know. I'll go with them 23-20. Certainly would not advise betting on that spread though. Panthers, again, they lose will be Saints fans they'll be Falcons fans, and the Bucks lose, they will be pulling for the Saints here. Or if they win, they'll be pulling for the Saints. Packers, Vikings, gonna go with the Vikings here. I think this is gonna be a really low-scoring defensive field goal heavy game. The Vikings are favored by 8.5. That's because Clayton Tune got announced as the starter. So Tune against this Brian Flores red hot Vikings defense, I think, is going to be an absolute disaster for the Packers. However, the Vikings are starting Brosmer. I'm pretty sure. Let me actually double check, but I'm pretty sure they are starting Max Brosmer. Let me just double check here. Okay, hang on here. Let's see here. Just kidding. JJ McCarthy is back to full participation. Okay, well, that makes me even feel better about the. I thought Brosman was starting. I thought I saw that somewhere. I guess not. But then I just double checked. But JJ McCarthy starting against the Packers here. Honestly, with that in mind, I'm going to up my score prediction a bit. I'll say the Vikings get 20 here instead of 16. But yeah, they're favored by 8.5. again, Clayton Tune against this Vikings defense, I think is going to be a disaster. They're going to probably blitz the shit out of them. Probably some turnovers, sloppy plays. I could see that. Minnesota's defense, I think, is going to win them the game. Even if I don't think the Vikings offense is going to do too much in this game. The Packers are locked into the 7 seeds. They may just rest a bunch of guys, especially if they're injured. So that's what they did week 18 last year when they played the Bears. But yeah, the Vikings offense, I think, does just enough in this game. I think their defense wins in the game. Green Bay, if they somehow pull this off with Clayton Tune, they're going to want to get the ball quick, get some yak yardage. Defense, I could see them winning the game for the Packers alone. I just don't see how the offense is going to do enough to win this game against this Minnesota defense. So I'm going to go with the Vikings 20-13. I would not bet that 8.5 point spread. I could see them just blowing the Packers out, but I wouldn't bet it. I'll go Minnesota 2013 here. Dolphins and Patriots. Gonna go with my team, of course. I think we're gonna win comfortably. We're favored by 10.5. I think we'll cover that spread. A lot of big spreads this week. I think that they'll certainly change a bit. Maybe a point swing, something like that. Well, not in the other teams. Well, in the other team's favor, but not to the point where they're favored. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this line goes down to like 9.5, and it varies, fluctuates for the game, for example. But the Dolphins, they're starting Quinn Ewers. We're still in contention for the 1 seed. I don't think we're going to get it. Spoiler for my Chargers Broncos pick, but it is possible. Vrabel's going to have the guys ready to go for this game. We saw that against the Jets last week. He's going to have the team ready to play. He's at least going to play the starter. I think he's honestly going to play for the starters the whole game. I could see us really blowing the Dolphins out, like not to the extent of the Jets last week, but to a similar extent, because I do think the Dolphins are a much better team than the Jets. I could see Vrabel maybe pulling the starters in the second half, the fourth quarter, something like that. But the Chargers Broncos play at the same time, so we're going to be basically in sync with the game. So we're not going to really have a good idea of if we have a chance to 1 seed. During the game, we're going to have to basically see after. Obviously the Broncos are a big or whatever. We're probably going to be like, all right, well, we're probably cooked for the 1 seed, but I still think Vrabel's going to just play the starters until this specific game he feels is out of reach. So yeah, I think May is going to have a big day. I think we may let him pass a bit more, really try to make his MVP case. I think that's what the Rams are probably going to do with Stafford against the Cardinals, especially because their offense it's kind of been a bit sloppy the past 2 weeks, you can say. Well, not sloppy against Seattle. They choked against Seattle a couple weeks ago, and then they really were not too good against the Falcons last week. But anyway, I'll talk about that game in a bit here. But yeah, I think we're going to blow the Dolphins. I only have us winning by 14. I think Miami may get like a garbage time touchdown to make it more respectable. Apparently, I don't think it's confirmed yet, but my friend Nate texted that, shout out Nate if you're watching this video, that the Dolphins, apparently it's rumored that they're like reported, one of the two, that they're resting a bunch of their big time starters. I don't know why they would do that because they've been out of the playoffs for 2 weeks and they've kept everyone in there except Tua, obviously. But I don't know, maybe really trying to tank at that draft position. If that's the case, I could see us winning by even more. But again, I think the Dolphins, even without some of their starters, are just better coached than the Jets. I think they'll, make it closer than the Jets, even though I have us winning comfortably. So I have us winning 31-16. I thought about like 34 to like 13 or 14. I could see us winning by a lot more. Miami, if they somehow pull this off, I guess they're going to want to play spoiler for us, obviously. They played spoiler for us week 17 of the 2019 season, cost us a first-round bye. Then we were eliminated by the Titans. God, I have PTSD just talking about that. But that was a different team. They played good last week, the Dolphins. Bad teams, they, usually don't play good 2 weeks in a row, especially if it's against a really good team like my team. Quinn Ewers looks solid. How's he's going to look against our defense? I think that's going to be a question mark. Miami, they somehow pull it off. Their offense, I think, just going to have to randomly pop off because I do think we're going to have a bunch of success offensively. Defensively, it's just going to have to be a weird game where they get turnovers, we're sloppy, just out of sync. They're just going to have to have some things bounce their way. I don't see it. Pretty confident in my team. I'll say 31-16. Could see it being a lot, well, not closer, a lot more of a blowout, though. Jets, Bills. Well, I'm going to go with the Bills here, but it looks like it's going to be Trubisky starting this game, and the Bills may rest a bunch of their starters. Now, if they do that, I actually am assuming they're going to do that. And the Jets are so bad that I'm predicting the Bills win regardless. Right now the Bills are favored by 7.5. And I'm predicting Trubisky to be the starter. Once they announce officially that Trubisky is going to start, because it really does not look like Josh Allen's going to play, I think the line is going to shoot drastically down to the point the Bills are still favored, but it's only going to be by like 3.5 points or something like that. But again, regardless, I'm picking Buffalo to cover that spread. I think even with Trubisky and the backups, they're going to win comfortably. Brady, Cook, and the offense, I don't think are going to do too much in this game, even against Buffalo's backups. Trubisky is, he's a serviceable backup, has plenty of starting experience. I think the offense will do, just enough. Well, not just enough. I think they'll have an efficient game anyway, regardless of who's in there. Jets are just so bad. Jets, if they somehow pull it off, obviously it's going to help if the Bills play their backups. I think their defense is just really going to have to limit Buffalo, so I don't see the offense doing too much. But the Bills, they've really struggled to stop the run most of the season. Maybe Breece Hall's a big day. That could be a key to the Jets winning, but I don't see it. I think Buffalo, even with the potentially Trubisky and a bunch of backups in there, I think they still win comfortably. I'll say 24-13, but I think they'll cover the spread, but if it's all the backups, you really want to bet on backups to cover 7.5 point spread. It is against the Jets, but that could be tricky. Chargers, Broncos. I'm going to go with the Broncos. I'm going to be pulling for the Chargers, obviously, as a Patriots fan. I actually think this game will be closer than people think. I think Denver is going to win, but only within one score. I have 24-16, so an 8-point win. I would not bet that 12.5 point spread for Denver. They could cover it, I guess. The Chargers backups, they could just blow them out. The Chargers plus 12.5, I think, is actually a solid bet. Now, again, similar to the Dolphins-Patriots game, I think this 12.5 point spread is probably going to fluctuate a bit, maybe to 12, 11.5, maybe it'll go up to 13. It'll fluctuate before the actual game kicks off, is my guess. But we just saw the Broncos struggle to basically beat the Chiefs practice squad. It's mostly all backups. It's Chris Oladokun. He doesn't even have, I don't even think he had 50 passing. He either just had over 50 or he had under 50 pass yards. And it's tied with a couple minutes left in the game. And the Chiefs are thrown in the end zone on the last play of the game for a chance to tie it and send it to overtime. The Chargers, even with their backups, I think are in a better situation than the Chiefs. And Trey Lance, we saw him look decent in the preseason. He was the third overall pick for a reason. The talent is there. There is no film on Trey Lance besides preseason, but preseason's not a good way to judge film. Teams are going to probably be running vanilla offenses in the preseason. So maybe you can argue that the Broncos don't exactly know what they're preparing for as well. Obviously, with Trey Lance, compared to if Herbert was starting, that was a tongue twister. Trey Lance, maybe his mobility can cause some issues for Denver. The Chargers defense, I think, is going to keep it relatively close. And the offense, I think Lance plays decent in this game, even though I don't have them putting up a ton of points here. So I do think it's close, but I think Denver gets another kind of grinded out, a win, but not the most convincing win. The offense for Denver, I think it has a typical Broncos, offensive performance this season where they, it's kind of sluggish. They look decent sometimes. They look bad some other drives. decent mix of field goals, touchdowns, net out around 20, 24, somewhere around there. The Broncos defense, I think, plays good. That's going to be what wins in the game ultimately. But I do think the Chargers have an actual chance, even with backups in this game. Denver all year struggled against bad, maybe not struggled, but win unconvincingly against bad teams. Obviously, the Chargers are on a bad team, but with their backups, I think it'll be a bit closer than people were expecting, and the line suggests. So I'm going to go with Denver 24-16, but as a Patriots fan, go Trey Lance. And again, if they win, I think Trey Lance is going to have a sneaky day. His mobility could cause issues in the Chargers defense. They are 3-0 against Bo Nix. And obviously, they played the starters in those 3 games. Denver nearly beat them earlier in the year. They probably should have held on there. But yeah, the Chargers defense could really limit the Broncos offense. Could see a good game schematically for Jesse Minter. But I'll go with Denver 24-16. But Broncos, I could see it being closer than people think. Another game that I think I have the same score prediction, actually 16-24. Philly's going to be playing a lot of their backups. I don't think it matters in this case. Technically, the Eagles can still get the 2 seed. It's actually, I mean, they actually have a legitimate chance. If they win this game and then the Bears lose to the Lions, that means the Eagles are going to slide into the 2 seed. Chicago falls to the 3 seed. So they actually have a realistic chance at the 2 seed, but they're playing their backups. I just think Josh Johnson is going to be starting for. Actually, let me double check this. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Josh Johnson starting. Let's see. Yep. All right. He'll start week 18. I don't think Josh Johnson's going to be able to do enough against this Philly defense, even with backups in there. I think Philly's defense is just going to play a hell of a game like they had most of the season. It's going to be too much for Washington to overcome here. Tanner McKee is a really solid backup. He's looked really good in the limited action. He's had some Eagles fans were calling for him to start over Hurts after Hurts had that disastrous 5-turnover game against the Chargers a couple weeks ago. So I think Washington's defense will keep it close against Tanner McKee the offense. The Eagles' offense has been good all year. I don't think they're going to go off here, but Washington has a bad defense. I think it'll be close for most of the game, then maybe Philly pulls away late. So I do think that the Eagles' offense, I just trust them to outscore Josh Johnson and the Commanders' offense here. I trust Philly's defense play better than Washington's. So I'll go with the Eagles here. Again, twice in 2 weeks, these teams are going to be playing, though. And it was relatively close for the majority of the game. The first time, Dan Quinn is going to have a chip on his shoulder because the Eagles went for 2 late. So Washington, they sort of could play spoiler a bit, even though it seems like the Eagles are like borderline content losing if they were to drop to the 3 seed. But even if they lose, even if they win, they still need the Bears to lose. So the Eagles, they're basically fine with the 3 seeds. They're not. Washington wouldn't be playing as much of a spoiler as compared to some other teams that could. Yeah, I don't know. Their defense could win in the game. Could see it being very low scoring. Josh Johnson looked okay against Dallas last week. Obviously, it's the Cowboys defense that's miles worse than this Philly defense. But I don't know. Could see the offense doing a bit more. Washington's defense playing solid. Could see them pulling it off. But I'll go with Philly. I think they'll cover that 4.5-point spread. So I'll go with the Eagles 24-16 in this one. Yeah. Not the sexiest game on paper, but who knows? Cardinals, Rams. I think the Rams are going to pull the doors off Arizona here. I only had them winning by 14 because I think Arizona may get a garbage time score or something like that. Now McVay said he's gonna play the starters, maybe to get them in the rhythm, as I mentioned, going into the postseason because they haven't been the most efficient the past 2 weeks, you can say. But if the 49ers beat Seattle, I believe the Rams are locked into the 6th seed. So maybe McVay could go back on his word a bit. He rests the starters. I could see a scenario where even if that's the case, where they're locked into the 6th seed going into this game, he plays the starters. They just blow the doors off Arizona, and then McVay, he gives them a few reps or whatever, a few drives, and he pulls them, plays the backups. Even with the backups, I think the Rams are going to win this game comfortably because the Cardinals are basically a team of backups because they're so injured. It's unbelievable how injured they've been. So I'm going to go with the Rams 31-17 here. They're favored by 7.5. I think they'll cover that. Could see them winning by even more than this. The offense just popping off. Stafford trying to, reassert himself for MVP. They're going to let him throw more. I could see that. Arizona, they somehow pull it off. I don't know. The defense, they're going to have to force some turnovers, I think. The offense, like the Rams defense has been slipping a bit lately, you could say. And it's been solid, the Cardinals offense with Brissett. So maybe they get something going there, but I don't think they're going to outscore the Rams, even with the backups. I'm pretty confident with the Rams in this game. I'll say the Rams win. I think they're going to be on a mission this game, 31-17. But yeah, hopefully Stafford kind of shits the bed so I can feel even more confident about May winning MVP. Lions Bears. So as I mentioned, the Bears are locked in, or not locked in. They're the 2 seed now, but they could fall to the 3 seed. I think they're going to win the game though. I'm going to pick them 30-27. I think this is a shootout. Two bad defenses. The Bears defense thrives when teams turn it over. The Lions usually are a solid turnover team. They were not last week. Last week was a disaster for them turning the ball over. So I think they're going to have an emphasis on cleaning that up, and they know that this Bears defense feasts off turnovers. So they're going to want to avoid those. So I do think the Lions offense bounces back. I think they have a really good game. The Lions defense is really struggling though. So I think the Chicago offense has a great game. I just trust them a bit more than the Lions to make an extra drive or an extra play, especially the Bears. We know, if anything, in crunch time, they somehow always pull it out for the most part this season. So I think it might be one of those games, back and forth shootout. Think this will be a fun game. Chicago favored by 3. I do think if they win, they'll cover that, but could be a bit tricky. The Lions, I could see them winning the game. They're going to want to play spoiler for Chicago, probably especially with Ben Johnson on the other side. They're going to want to finish with a winning record. Could see them busting out some trick plays. I could see the defense maybe making like 1 or 2 more stops, and I'm predicting it too. But yeah, I do think the Lions are going to go all out for this game. That seems like the Dan Campbell style. They were eliminated 2 years ago, or well, Jesus, 3 years ago now against the Packers for the last game of the season, and they didn't want the Packers to go to the postseason, and they won that game. Now, obviously, the Bears are in the postseason, but similar story here, you can say. So the Lions, they very well could win the game. The first matchup, they blew the doors off the Bears. The Bears are miles better now than they were then. But I'm going to pick Chicago 30-27, squeaker of a game. Should be an entertaining game, though. Looking forward to this one. Chiefs Raiders. Oh boy, Chiefs are favored by 5.5. I would not touch that spread. As a matter of fact, I think I wouldn't touch the spread either because these on either teams, there's two bad teams. Who would have thought that about the Chiefs entering the season? But Raiders plus 5.5. I think they'll cover that. I think this is going to be a defensive game, bad offense on both sides. I just trust the Chiefs defense a bit more than the Raiders to outplay them in this game. I think the Chiefs offense will do just enough to win the game. I believe it's going to be, let me double check, but I'm pretty sure they announced Chino's out, so Kenny Pickett is going to be starting for the Raiders. Let me just double check that. Yep, expect to start for the Raiders. So, yeah, the Raiders, I mean, they're getting blown out by the Giants. The Chiefs are bad, but the defense, I think, alone might win them the game. The offense will do just enough. The Raiders, I mean, it looks like they're just tanking at this point, getting blown out by the Giants, put Bowers on IR, say Crosby needs season-ending surgery, and then he's posting videos of him shooting some hoops in his house. Not a good look. So it seems like the Raiders want to lose, honestly. But like I said, the defense I think is going to play well enough for them to win the game. Kenny Pickett maybe gives them a bit of a burst. The Chiefs are so bad that I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders win. But I think the Chiefs will end up squeaking it out here. I'll say they win in a very low scoring 17-16 game. Who the hell knows and who the hell cares, though, honestly. And then the last game of the regular season, Ravens Steelers for the division. I'm going to pick the Ravens. The Ravens are favored by 3.5. I think they'll the 3.5 is a bit tricky. If it was -3, I would say I think they'll cover. I actually had them covering. I had them winning by 6, but I think they'll cover it. But that's a tricky spread. I might not bet it because that could be trickier. That half a point. But yeah, Baltimore. I'm picking them in this game. I just think they're playing better than the Steelers. The vibes going in this game are higher on the Ravens end. I don't know. The matchup a couple weeks ago, the Steelers outplayed them, and Baltimore was sloppy, and Baltimore probably still should have won the game. That was a touchdown to Isaiah Likely, in my opinion. I think the Ravens would have won that game if that was called a touchdown. And that was with DK Metcalf going off. They still nearly lost the game, and they got that extremely questionable call to go in their favor, the Steelers. They're going into this game. The vibes are, well, all we had to do was beat the Browns to win the division. We put up 6 points and lost the game. Now they're going up against a Ravens team that is going to be extremely thankful that they have another chance to win the division. And again, a team that they probably should have lost to a couple weeks ago. They got some things to go their way, and no Metcalf. That significantly diminishes their offense. The Ravens defense has been playing well for really since Lamar came back after their 1-5 start. Well, Tyler Huntley, I guess, got them their second win of the season. But since then, the defense for the most part has been playing solid. Going against the Steelers offense with, an extreme drop off in production at the receiver position with no Metcalf. Even if Metcalf was playing, I probably would still be picking the Ravens, but I'd be less confident in doing so. So the Ravens defense playing solid. Steelers offense coming off game where they put up 6 points. No Metcalf. And again, the vibes for the Steelers going in the game I don't think are too good. The vibes for the Ravens seem pretty high. And Lamar coming back, even though Tyler Huntley's actually looked really good for Baltimore, Lamar coming back is going to be a bit of a boost for them, you can say. I don't know. I'm honestly pretty confident with the Ravens. Now, Ravens Steelers, I never should say that, but I feel good with the Ravens. I think actually they may try to do like a reverse psychology move where the Steelers are going to be. The Steelers have actually been shopping the run lately the past couple of weeks, but which obviously is the big part of the Ravens offense with especially Henry. But I think the Ravens may try to pull like a reverse psychology move where they're going to assume the Steelers. They're probably thinking, well, we need to stop Derrick Henry. That's going to be the number one priority, especially after we steamrolled the Packers last week. Obviously, I think Derrick Henry's going to be featured a lot. Probably give it to him a bunch in this game. But I think they're going to kind of use it as bait a bit. Maybe play action Henry a bit. When Henry's on the field, they usually run it, obviously. So maybe they use Henry in the passing game a bit more. The play action game, they get Lamar scrambling. So I think the Ravens may use Henry as not a diversion because I think he's gonna get a bunch of carries still, but sort of as a diversion. So I honestly feel decent about Baltimore. I'm probably gonna bet them honestly. They're favored by 3.5 on the road, so Vegas is probably with me, and they feel fairly confident with Baltimore. The Steelers, they very well could win the game. Like I said, they've been stopping the run, so Lamar being with as limited as he has been with the injuries, he hasn't been running. He hasn't been nearly as mobile as normal Lamar, healthy Lamar. So if they stop the run, make Lamar throw, that could be a key to the Steelers winning here. Lamar, I don't mean that as a shot at Lamar. I actually think Lamar has gotten significantly better as a passer. I used to joke that he was a running back like a lot of people did, but I actually am kind of becoming a fan of Lamar the past couple of years. I've been impressed really since Todd Monken's taken over. I've been impressed with his strides as a passer. But if they start the run, they just try to make Lamar throw. That could be the Steelers' game plan. Offensively, like I don't know, the Ravens' defense has been playing well, but Rodgers actually I haven't really seen many people talking about this, but this might if they lose this game, they're obviously out of the playoffs. Maybe this is Rodgers' his last game ever. He said before the season that he really thinks this is it. but now he's kind of talking about he's leaving the door open. I think I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan, but I think Rodgers has played well enough for him to come back next year. Even if he wants to play, I think the Steelers would want him back. But for some reason, if they didn't, I think there may be some other teams interested in Rodgers. But anyway, as far as this game, this may be Rodgers' last game. So maybe he leaves it all on the line. Aaron Rodgers, primetime at home. Pittsburgh in primetime. Mike Tomlin in primetime too. All that alone is just the Steelers could win the game. I could see Rodgers just having a hell of a game. Maybe he goes out playing like, a hell of a game, even though if it's in a losing effort. But obviously, all the pressure going into this game, Rodgers typically performs well, at least in the regular season, under high expectations. But so I could see the offense playing well, even though I'm only predicting 17. Could go either way, but I do think another side. I'm getting off topic here, but I do think the Steelers need to move on from Mike Tomlin. I think they need a new voice. I mean, if they lose this game, they again will have choked a lead in the division, and it'll be another year where they haven't even won a playoff game since 2017. So I do think they need to move on from Mike Tomlin. Just 9-8, 10-7 isn't going to be cutting it anymore. But who the hell knows? We'll have to see how this game goes. But just the vibes going in this game, I'm going to go with the Ravens, 23-17. Could go either way, though. Let me double check all the games here. Yep. Okay, so again, last week of the regular season, seeding at stake for a bunch of teams. We know all the teams that are in the playoffs except for the NFC South winner, which is either going to be Carolina or Tampa, or the AFC North winner, which is either going to be Baltimore or Pittsburgh. Whoever wins those divisions, they will be the 4 seed in the AFC and NFC. So we know that. Some teams are locked into their seeding, could be, depending on how some games play out prior to their respective games. But seeding is at stake for a bunch of teams. Going to be a wild week. Some games are meaningless as far as playoffs. Some are, going to be teams resting their starters. But by the way, the Chargers basically being content with handing the 1 seed to their division rival is absolutely insane. And I'm sure it looks like we're going to match up with them in the playoffs. So if that happens, Vrabel's going to use the bulletin board here. Well, they're pretty content with matching up with us. They want us in the first round, so that'll be bulletin board material for us. Same with the Bills, because if the Bills lose, they're the 7th seed too. But yeah, some wild scenarios could play out. We're going to have to see what the hell happens. Week 18, it's always crazy. So should be an entertaining week. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. Tomorrow looks like a pretty good slate of games. So I'm more excited for Seattle and San Fran, obviously more than Panthers Bucks. I think whoever wins that game is probably going to lose to the 5 seed. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, I will wrap this video up here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Good luck with your picks, betting, fantasy. I think pretty much all fantasy leagues are over, but if for some reason you're still playing, good luck in fantasy. Again, check out my playoff scenarios video for week 18 I uploaded the other day. I think I went through all the possible scenarios except for ties. I didn't predict any ties, so I'm going to assume there's no ties, although who the hell knows whether this season's gone. But I'll wrap this video up here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, especially this week, go Pats, and actually go Chargers too. But I'm going to end the video saying go Pats.